What's up, everybody? Unrested back again after a bit of a sabbatical, after being sick for like a whole week. It's like the first day I finally feel normal again. Oh man, I don't know what I came down with. I went out to this place to explore for a Osroshi Saturday, and afterwards I got sick. I was warned before I went there that it was like kind of like a contaminated area, so I imagine I did myself some bad by going there. Nonetheless, I'm lucky. Took some antibiotics and I was okay afterwards, but yeah, I was pretty sick. You could probably tell by my Facebook posts and the crazy fever dreams I was typing up, just how sick I was. But I'm better. I'm good now. But I appreciate all the well wishing. Everybody sent me a lot of well wishes and get well soon and stuff. I really appreciate that. I apologize to pretty much a whole week of people sending me messages and me almost not responding at all. I'm already super busy on top of it. I never stopped going to work the whole time I was sick, but any time I had downtime, I was just like laying still. I was just like whoa, on the couch. It was pretty awful. I want to continue on with my ramble part 9. Are we up to now? Jeez. I think I'm going to keep this one a little bit shorter. I don't have much time today, so this will be shorter than my normal rambles. Of course, I say shorter, but then it might go on forever. Who knows? But I'd like to keep it to like 20 minutes if I could at most. Maybe shorter than that if I can. Let's see. Where did we leave off last time? Oh, I just went through the debacle with that one Akaiwa that tried to screw me over. I had to take them to a lawyer. I never had to go to court. The next step would have been to go to court. If they did not answer the lawyer's letter, then the lawyer takes them to court after that, which I'm really glad it didn't escalate to that. If you're interested in learning more about the legal system of Japan and how it works with like things like if you want to stop something like defamation of character, or if you want to stop an employer from messing with you in a legal matter, or you want to get back at them in a legal matter, there's a really great 2.5 Oyaji's Victor did with Ronin, is his name? No, it's Ed something, dang it, man. He calls himself Edo because I guess it's supposed to be like a play on the word Edo era. I'm hoping that's why he did it. If it isn't, then I've totally messed up the whole reasoning behind it. But anyway, it's a guy who's lived in Japan super long, and I mean, he's really gotten hardcore into the culture, way more even than me. Learned tons about it. I believe he works as a renraku, which means he like tells stories in the same way that like you see those guys who kneel and like hold the fan in front of a small podium and tell the stories. I believe that's what he does. I could be wrong though. There are a few gaijin that do that here in Japan. And apparently he has a website for his business, I guess, for him and his agent, booking shows for him to do this kind of stuff. And for some reason, a disgruntled viewer or fan, or I don't know who exactly it was, he couldn't give us the details because he said part of the deal was when when the guy attacked him, he tried to sue him for defamation of character, and he won, and the guy had to take down all the stuff that he wrote, all his like bad stuff. He was trying to like defamate everything about his show, say like it's super bad. It was like I remember Edo said he could like prove that the guy hadn't actually been at the show or something like that. It was the way it came across was that it was pretty obvious this was just an angry dude who didn't personally like Edo and was attacking his show and trying to ruin his business via defamating his character. And he walked us through the whole lawyer process of how he had to file a defamation of character lawsuit against the guy, and that the first step was a letter writing to tell him to take down the information. And if he didn't do that, then the next step would be to proceed to court and sue him in court and stuff. And he said, too, he didn't have to get to that point, that usually the first time a person in Japan sees a lawyer's letter, they'll back down pretty fast. And I think that holds pretty true. That held true for my own situation. That held true for Edo and other people I've talked to before. Only one other time I heard a guy, he actually went to court. his employer tried to like get back money. Like he quit his company, and his lawyer tried to, the owner of the company tried to get him to pay back his like last paycheck or something, and took him to court, and of course he lost. If any company ever tries to tell you that they're going to take you to court and sue you for breaking a contract in Japan, straight up bullshit. They can actually do it. They can actually take you to court for breaking a contract. It has been done before. There's been something like, I think they said, what I've read, and it was from the Gaijin Union, that only something like a handful of companies have ever tried to do it, and no one has ever won in court. It just doesn't hold up. They can write stuff in your contract though, like if you break this contract, you have to pay us back this amount of money or anything. It's bullshit. They can't do that. I had one friend one time who signed some sort of contract, and I can't remember exactly what happened, but in the contract it said something like, if you don't finish it, you have to pay like $200 or something. And like right away he found out his first paycheck was like short some amount of money, so he quit. And the guy, the owner from the company, came to my friend's house and like tried to extort money out of him. Well, the good thing was though that he didn't know my friend was like covered in tattoos, because every day he had shown up in a suit. And so when he showed up at his door and the guy was covered in tattoos, he was just like, oh, like he kind of thought twice, like maybe I'm biting off more than I could chew here. I can tell you, if that guy ever tried to show up to my house and extort me for money, it would be the baseball bat. I always keep a baseball bat next to my door. I always feel like no matter where you live, how safe the country is, you should always protect your house and everybody inside your house, especially if, you feel like you're the protector of your family. Some people feel like the woman is, some people feel like the man is. Might be totally switch or both or whatever. For me, I feel like I should be the protector of the house. I keep a baseball bat next to my door all the time. First I check the people on the camera. If it's a person that I want to let in, then I'll come up to the door and answer it, of course. But I have things like, there's NHK people who try to extort money from you. And I had one time where I had a series of NHK guys come to my door 1 week after another. And the first time it was just like this like little old guy, and I was just like, no, go away. I don't watch NHK. I don't use my TV to watch NHK. It's a monitor for my computer. A second guy came, and he was really pushy. He was like, no, you need to give us the $30. And I was like, no, you need to leave my house. And if you don't, sorry, I should tell people who don't know who NHK is. NHK is the equivalent to the BBC or PBS, and there's scams that go around where Yakuza people pretend to be NHK people and try to collect money from you. NHK denies this, but it's been found to be true. On top of that, NHK hires out a secondary collections company to try and collect money. They're not even actually employees of NHK. NHK doesn't have enough, I guess, what would you say, semblance, customer service, or proper authority to come out to your house and try to collect money for something you never asked for. You didn't say, I absolutely want to have NHK. And there's no way you can actually stop NHK from being broadcasted to your house, which is, it's kind of funny. Like, there's this card that you get with your TV that you have to put in there to make it work. And even if you say, well, I don't have that card inside my TV to make it broadcast NHK, they still want to try and make you pay. I'm just like, no, man, no. First of all, NHK doesn't offer any very good shows at all. Their programming is pretty much shit. Their news is super, what would you say, conservative bullshit. It's totally this right-wing bullshit that's one-sided views of everything. Their CEO, Mame, I think his name is, Mome, I could be wrong, said that Japan was 100% right in having comfort women during the war, and that, of course, men needed comfort women. Like, how else were, aggressive soldiers supposed to release tension without, raping people? I mean, come on. He's a totally apologist for, like, comfort women, which I'm not saying Japan is the only country that had comfort women. Like, it's been proven that it was all over the world, that every different military had comfort women, that they either, raped women, they either took comfort women in. They, prostituted women. It's happened through militaries throughout the world, throughout the centuries. Okay, this is not a new thing. I'm not, pointing out Japan as one. But those countries also admitted it, okay? Most of those countries, like for example, America very much so admits when they fucked up in war. Usually they're pretty good about being like, look, that was fucked up. We shouldn't have done that. I think they're constantly doing that, which doesn't always necessarily make it right, but at least they do admit it sometimes. Whereas Japan just is, some of them say comfort women was messed up. Some people here are like, no, it never happened. And then some people say, yeah, it happened, but it was totally justified, which is that's one thing I don't agree with 100%. If you know that it happened, you can't justify it. If you apologize for it, I understand that. If you completely deny it, well, denial is not an excuse either. So anyway, I'm getting really off topic on a crazy tangent here. Let's reel it back in, Scott. Holy cow. So NHK, yeah. And then I got to get back into where I'm at in my life at this point. Well, that's okay that I got off on this, because it just kind of gives you my mindset inside of my house that I'm living in now, because this is my house that I'm living in now. We've moved into this house, we own it. Like I said, I'm not a violent guy. I won't go out and like pick fights or anything like that. I have people who always write violence is never the answer, Scott. I don't know why you pick fights, but all the stories I ever tell, it's always someone being aggressive to me, and then I'm like, all right, I'm sick of this. I'm not going to take this. It's never me being like, so I walk onto the train and I look for a person to punch in the face. Like, that's not my intention ever. But if someone does get aggressive with me, my philosophy has always been never ever start a fight. But if someone starts one with you, pay them back tenfold. Give them what they want. End it for them. If they want to, never start something, but if someone does start something, end it. And that's pretty much my policy with my house too. I'm not gonna go outside of my house and ever bother anyone. I'm never gonna come to someone else's residence and bother them. But if someone tries to do that to me, either one, I'll call the cops on them. It'd probably be the first thing I'd want to do. But if they're absolutely so aggressive that they won't leave me alone, then I'll have to get violent. Sometimes violence is the answer when you're protecting your, 2 kids who are 2 and 4 years old. Yes, I will get violent to protect my tiny kids. Yes, it will happen. Well, that's what I'm talking about with NHK one time. So the second guy came, he was super pushy. I told him to fuck off, get out. And so another week goes by, and these big ass dudes come to my house, NHK guys, and they were super pushy. They were all trying to put their foot between the door and how I could close the door. They'd put their foot in there to try and stop me from closing my own door. They said they needed to come into the house and see my TV and stuff. Well, fuck no one invited you in. You don't have any kind of authority to enter in my house. No matter, I don't care what country it is, and even if there is some kind of country that allows you to come into my house, I'm not gonna fucking let you enter the house unless you're a policeman with a warrant. So that's one time I had to grab my bat, and as soon as he saw me grab for that, that's when they finally were like, oh, okay, maybe we're pushing it a bit far. But the fact that NHK has to be so aggressive like that, it just shows what kind of, cutthroat antics that they'll use to try and get their money because no one wants to pay their fucking bullshit. Anyway, NHK, out of the way. Okay, so one of the big major events that happened in my life during this time was the death of our dog. I guess I failed to mention the whole time while we were having a child and while we were moving into a house is that we have a cat, we have a dog. Our cat's name is Yuki. That's Yuki as in snow, not Yuki as in courage. And that's one funny thing that always happens in Japan. There's a girl's name Yuki, which means snow, and then there's Yuki, which there's 2 U's if you were to write it in Romaji, and that means courage. And that's the boy's name. So if you ever teach a class in Japan and you call the boy Yuki and not Yuki, they'll get really pissed off. They'll be like, I'm not snow, I'm courage. Just kind of a funny fact. So we had a dog, and during this time the dog died. The dog was super old. It was a Dutch Hound. Am I saying that right? Dachshund? Is that right? People always correct me on that one. I'm not really. I like dogs. I like dogs a lot more than cats. I had a German Shepherd growing up. I had a yellow lab before I left America. And those are 2 dogs I remember pretty well, especially my German Shepherd when I was young. Her name was Dixie. She's a really cool dog. And we had this dog, his name was Udi. or Uribo, which pretty much means uh, boar, like the animal, a boar, like like a wild boar. Looks like a pig, but it has like tusks. And the reason we called the dog that was because it had a stripe on its back, like a razorback boar would. So his name was Uribo. So it's kind of a strange name if you think about it in English. It'd be like if you got a dog and you said, "Hey, boar," you called the dog a boar, which is kind of strange, right? Whatever. Or you called your dog Wild Boar. "Hey, Wild Boar, come over here." But whatever, for me, it felt pretty natural. It's just like a Japanese name, so not a big deal. And Uribo was a really sweet dog. If you go back a long time ago and watch like my first couple of videos, Uribo is still alive, and you can see her there. But she is all sorts of blind. Sad thing, right? It's pretty common in dachshunds that live a long time. I found out that they usually almost always go blind. This dog was like 13, 14 years old. It was pretty old. It was getting up there. And it died right as we were moving. It just, the move might have been stressful on the dog. Who knows? You really don't know. But I mean, it was already in a bad way. It had things like a gum infection, and the gum infection had messed up its kidneys and all kinds of stuff. And it was always like going into these convulsions and stuff. Really sad to watch. Really, really sad. And I mean, if you're a huge pet lover and stuff, I'm sorry if this part of the story is disturbing to you, but I mean, I can tell it now because it's been a while. It's been like 5 years almost since this happened, but it was super sad during that time. We were taking her to the vet all the time, and finally the last time we took her to the vet, like he was like, "Look, you just need to keep her here. It's time." She took the long sleep, and we dropped her off, and he said, "I'm going to call you when she's getting near the end of her life," and that's what he did. I remember my wife was, she was so distraught because she had had this dog, way before she had even met me. So this dog was really dear to her. I mean, she was, inconsolable. We got there, we said our goodbyes, we put her down. Ugh, getting choked up just talking about it now. And then we had a funeral. You have a funeral for pets in Japan, like a full out, paid for funeral and everything. And that was a pretty big surprise to me. I'd never seen what a pet funeral had been like. I mean, I don't know how it is for you in your country where you're at, but I remember when our dogs died, we just like buried it in the backyard. That was it. Like maybe you said a few things like that. It was a good time, but it's every dog has its day. Is that what that saying means? Maybe not. So yeah, I think I totally warped what that saying was supposed to mean. Every dog has its day. So anyway, we take the dog to a funeral, and it was really surprising. So like it was this temple, and on the corner of the temple there's this tiny room, and from what I understood, it was the temple of where animals are buried, a pet cemetery. And we go in there, and in this room, it's like you would see like a Buddhist temple, with all these shelves all over the walls and all these candles and everything, like you would see in a Buddhist temple. Pretty normal, like statues of Buddha and everything like that, and little statues of other, minor deities, greater deities, Shinto deities. And on all these shelves are pictures, just pictures and pictures and pictures and pictures of animals, with tiny urns next to them, I guess with, the ashes and stuff and the bones inside. And it was surprising, like you think, like, what do you have a funeral for? Do you have a funeral for your dog? Okay, yeah. A funeral for your cat? Oh, yeah, okay, that makes sense. But this was like funeral for everything. Like there was hamsters there were squirrels, there were like lizards, fish. I couldn't believe it. Like people had paid. I mean, you had to pay a pretty decent amount of money. I think we paid like $300, $400 for this whole ceremony and everything. And you get in there, and this lady who is like I don't know if she's like considered like a priest or a monk. It was really hard for me to understand all this. So if someone can explain like exactly what that person's role would have been. She wasn't dressed in any kind of like clerical robes. but she was like, oh yeah, bring your pet into here, and we put her in a basket, and like, placed her on this altar, and she said some prayers over our dog's body, and then she said, okay, now we got to take her out to the incinerator, and you put your dog in the incinerator, and I remember like we put the dog in the incinerator, and I knew from Japanese funerals that the next part was like collecting the bones and everything, and putting them in the urn. Well, I mean, no, okay, so I didn't know it was collecting bones. I thought it was like dust. I thought you collect dust in the urn. And here's a thing that a lot of people don't understand. When we incinerate someone, you have to incinerate a person or an animal or anything with bones at a really, really high level of heat. And different countries incinerate at different levels of heat. For example, America, when we incinerate at a massively high level to the point that everything is broken down into ashes. If you ever see a movie where like they send someone out in a pyre, like a funeral pyre, which means like a funeral fire on a boat, and they come back and they're a pile of ashes, that's bullshit. Like, just starting a normal ass fire is not going to burn somebody's body down to ashes, okay? There's going to be tons of bones left, probably even like muscle and sinew and stuff like that. It's not a nice sight. To actually burn, to absolutely break the entire body down into ashes takes a really powerful heat. The bones are strong. Like, I mean, especially things like teeth and everything too. If you ever think about, like, they're like, yeah, we found the person's teeth after the entire house burned down. That's because like enamel makes things last forever. It's pretty crazy. So we put the dog into the incinerator, and we only waited like a couple minutes, I remember, and the guy who was running the incinerator was like, okay, come back and see the dog. And I remember thinking like, whoa, wait, this is like way too soon. Like, I remember how long like incineration takes in America, and it was like, you waited like a couple hours, if I'm correct, maybe even longer. I mean, depending on if you're, cooking an animal or a human. Sorry, it sounds gruesome, but it's true. And we came back, and right away he pulled it back out, and I remember thinking like, not enough time. And when he pulled it out, like it was like the full skeleton. Like that everything was left. You could totally see like the full shape of the dog and everything, but in bone shape. And at first I thought like, did something go wrong? Like, is this too early? But my wife was totally like not like surprised at all. She was just kind of like, yep, here we go. Well, which I found out later was they cook at a way lower heat in Japan, and they end up leaving all the bones and stuff so that you can collect which bones you want and stuff, and you separate it into an into a urn from the incinerator that you want. Sorry, it's getting really hard. Got a kid yelling here right next to me. It's not my kid this time. It's someone else's. It's okay. I just a little hard to concentrate while that happens. And so what I did, I remember, is just like collected random bones. I couldn't even think about it. I was just like kind of so taken aback. Hold on, I'm gonna get my bag real quick. I was so taken aback that we could see like the full shape and everything, that I just randomly collected bones. I didn't know what to collect and stuff. Later I found out you're supposed to collect bones that are your favorite bones, or like ones that you want to keep, that you think are important. Maybe there is certain parts that I don't understand, like this means something and that means something, like, like there's like a wishbone and things like that. I don't quite understand how all the different parts work, and maybe there is some sort of holy representation behind each thing, or some sort of ethereal connection. Sorry, I'm gonna move here real quick. This kid's shouting right next to it. It has every right to do so. It's a park. So I'll move over here. There we go. All right, sorry, I had to move there, interrupt the video. So anyway, I remember we took it out, we placed different parts into these different urns and stuff, and then you keep one urn at the temple with a picture of the dog, and then you take one urn home, and we have a picture of the dog. And I remember the dog, we still have Udi's picture up and everything. We still have the urn, we still have it wrapped in a cloth, some kind of like blessed cloth or something like that, and kind of like a little shrine to Udi. And my wife still puts out food for him and stuff, like you would in Buddhist tradition, like put out rice and stuff for family members that have passed on and stuff. So Kind of interesting. And I remember like behind his urn we have some of his favorite treats set up and stuff too. And that's the story of when my dog died. And you know what? I'm gonna end it right here. A little bit hard to talk today. I got a lot of kids at the park and stuff, so I don't want to bother them. This is their place to play, and I'm just here to shoot a stupid video. But until next time, I hope you enjoyed this ramble today. Let me know what you want future rambles about. I'm going to continue on, of course, with the history of Unrested. This was part 9 of the history of Unrested. If you want to see the rest, I'm going to make a playlist eventually where you can go through the whole thing. And the next part we're going to move on to here, I think, is the betrayal part. There's a part where I get betrayed by a close friend, and it should make for an interesting story. Of course, do realize while I'm telling these, I'm always picking out parts of my life that are either the most traumatic or the most memorable. I try to cut out a lot of like the mundane things. Like I'm not like, and then we bought a brand new dishwasher. Like you don't want to hear about stuff like that. You want to hear about the drama, right? Let's be honest. Okay, until next time, I'm Unrested. If you like what you saw here today, please like, comment, and subscribe.